Well, first of all, great to be with you, and it is a key subject to discuss. Earlier this week on Monday, the trade and foreign ministers met in Brussels to discuss this very issue of President Trump's letter threatening a tariff of 30%, which all of us really saw as unhelpful, given that we were getting close to agreement in principle on the negotiations that have been going on for far too discuss in details. This is something that is in the press, but clearly we as the EU have been proposing to the US lowering our tariffs. We started with 0 for 0. So this is in this, the negotiations are in the logic of not escalating further, but actually lowering tariffs on both sides and using the crisis for strengthening rather than weakening the transatlantic ties, especially in economics and trade.
Given all the conversations you've had and the briefs from the European Commission, I'm trying to understand how far do you think the EU is from reaching a trade compromise with the United States?
Well, look, Commissioner Šefčovič, who's our European main negotiator, have given us a really very clear and very detailed review. He, without going into too many details, he has spent over 100 hours in a face-to-face negotiations with his American counterpart. He has done 10 missions to the US to reach this agreement. And we were pretty close. The Commission, before the letter was sent, was hoping to reach the agreement in principle at the end of last week. So on the big picture, we were close before we received this letter. It's a bit of a roller coaster negotiations as for everyone. So, you know, I would say that we are certainly close, but of course, we will be there only after we can actually put some things on paper. And in the end, it's very clear that on the US side, as much as it's good to negotiate with his team, it is President Trump that makes the final decisions about tariffs, and he is focused on the agreement with the EU quite a bit.
So what do you think the EU needs to do? Because, as you said, there have been a lot of conversations between both sides of the Atlantic. So what can the EU offer to convince Donald Trump to sign a trade compromise with the Europeans?
Well, I'll tell you what our strategy is overall. One is negotiate, and I will come back to this, negotiate with the Americans in good faith, and there is a clear preference for this. The second one is let's prepare for countermeasures in case we don't. And we have both the countermeasures on steel and aluminum tariffs, as well as the additional package of $72 billion for so-called reciprocal tariffs. Point three, we are comparing notes with other countries that are affected by US tariffs, not to necessarily coordinate, but to get a sense of where everyone else is, because the other countries negotiating with the US are a bit on the same wagon. And the fourth, we are really strengthening European competitiveness. You asked what we can offer. This is the most vital economic relationship for the United States. The transatlantic one is the biggest economic relationship that the US has. So that's what we are having really on the table.
So it's about the size.
Exactly.
Right. I would also like to understand whether you have seen the list in terms of the 72 billion euros in countermeasures that the Commission is preparing.
So Commission has shared it with the member states. It's something that is done, frankly, at more slightly technical level than myself and the ministers. But it's the process is straightforward. The Commission puts forward a proposal of measures that member states point out to areas where they think we should not act, and that's why we ended up with the 72 billion package, which is balanced and both it spreads also the hurt that would come from such a measure on the European side.